Hello, this is Artemis_anime, and today I am reading Chapter 20, Fostering Trust of Viridian by Silver Mist Anime Lover. I hope you enjoy. Izuku hissed lowly as he crouched under some rubble with Tamaki. It'd been stupid to go out into the city ruins. They knew that, but they also desperately needed medical supplies, and the only hospital that hadn't been cleared out was in the middle of Tokyo ruins. Really, Tamaki and Izuku decided that it was worth the risk. They needed the antibiotics for Hisashi's fever. Dabi said he really wouldn't last much longer without them. It was ultimately why the two of them had been rebellious idiots and left without saying anything. Izuku left a letter just in case they didn't come back. They'd both been understandably nervous as they approached the massive towering stone towers they'd initially been built to keep the Nomu out. Instead, they'd trapped them in when a bunch of idiots hadn't admitted that they were sick. Those who survived the massacres never really dared to return to the walled cities. Sure, by this point there were gaping holes in the walls, but it still kept most of those Nomu inside. The place would be crawling with them, and it was suicide to even go as close as they were now. But Hisashi had been sick for days. He really wouldn't survive without the medicine, and Izuku wasn't sure he could bear to watch a show break like that. With a silence shared between them, the two silently snuck their way in. The city was nothing like they remembered. Towering buildings were reduced to rubble, and old apartment complexes crumbled at the corners. Cars were left haphazardly, either abandoned in the middle of the road or parked quietly on the streets, where they rusted and the tires had practically melted into the pavement. Trees were growing wildly, and ivy was snaking its way up nearly every building. Many of the half-toppled over structures were painted green with moss and grass, where nature had readily begun to reclaim her land. It was surreal, almost peaceful in a sense. Birds chirped and animals grazed, and honestly, if he couldn't hear the far too close sounds of Nomu, he would have thought it was a good place to sit and draw. As it was, the sorrowful beauty of an abandoned city was enough to take both of their breaths away. Without the bustle of the city life, or the hum of electricity, everything was softer somehow. The air was sweeter, and Izuku wondered if perhaps the destruction of society would have been a better thing for the planet. "Come on," Tamachi quietly nudged his arm. "I'm pretty sure the hospital is this way. With luck, we can snag some supplies." Izuku nodded, making sure his old vigilante outfit was fitting properly. It was made with stealth in mind, so it was a lot quieter than when wearing it. He tended to wear it out on runs, but it needed a wash, badly. He'd never missed detergent so much in all of his life. An instinct had him grabbing Tamaki's arm and pulling him into an alleyway just as a white Nomu stalked around the corner, sniffing the air. Perhaps the lack of detergent was a good thing after all, because the Nomu didn't seem to think that his BO was out of place and continued on. The two let out shaky breaths. "Still picking up deodorant for you," Tamaki muttered as he itched his nose. "You freak." "It's not my fault I haven't had a chance to wash this outfit," Izuku argued quietly back. "Find me some soap and it shouldn't stink so much." They cautiously rounded a few more corners before laying their eyes on a half-destroyed hospital. They carefully slipped in through the broken windows with grins on their faces. "They're gonna kill us if we make it out of this alive," Izuku noted. "Correction, they're going to kill us if they find out we're gone. I may have left a note." Izuku scratched the back of his head as they made their way through the winding halls. "What? Why? I told you to let things be," Tamaki whispered. "Damn it, I'll never hear the end of Phantom's lecture." "I figured it's better than worrying about us if we don't make it back," Izuku shrugged. "I mean, I'd want to know if Shoto was being an idiot." "Fair," Tamaki sighed. "Tabi's going to fry us. And Shoto's going to give us that glare," Izuku agreed. "I think you should be more worried about Hagakure. Didn't you promise him you'd stay out of trouble?" "I mean, the worst he can do is, 'Hey, Tamaki, look!'" Izuku's smile was a full-blown grin as he showed him the gold mine in front of them. Bottles. Hundreds of bottles of medicine. Everything from antiseptics to antibiotics and pain medicine. Grab your bags, we're loading up, Tamaki decided as he grabbed his own bag. They scooped armfuls of anything that looked useful. Antibiotics, painkillers, sleeping pills, they all went into their packs. The whole place seemed untouched, like nobody had bothered to raid it since the walls went down. Their loss was Izuku's gain, because he found another gold mine of sterile bandages and antiseptics. His bag would get too heavy before long, and he winced whenever the pill bottles made a rattling sound. He tried patting it with as much gauze and band-aids as they could, but it didn't help much. If he had time, he would have opened the bottles and stuffed them in with cotton. But there were too many and too little time. There was no telling when a Nomu would get curious about the noise the two were inadvertently making. "Come on," Tamaki laughed quietly, his eyes sparkling with excitement. "Let's see what else we can find. We may never get another chance like this." They were running through the halls, opening doors and giving each room a cursory glance for anything useful. It was in an office that something caught Izuku's eye. It looked distinctly official and was the only thing that wasn't thrown everywhere. Blood stained the walls as claw marks marred the wall above an old skeleton. Izuku left Tamaki to check out the other rooms across the hall as he curiously picked up the file. He almost dropped it when he saw what it read. "The CDC files from the outbreak," he whispered. It seemed to be the first and second strain. He pocketed it. It may not have any use to him, but his gut said to take it anyway, and he always listened to his gut. "Tamaki," Izuku placed a hand on his shoulder as they passed the window. "It's getting late. Sunset will be within an hour. You know Nomu are more active after sundown." He shared a look with his brother, who sighed. "I know you're disappointed, but we got what we came for. We've hit literal gold. There is nothing to be disappointed about. This will last us years." "You're right." He gave Izuku a bit of a smile. "Come on then. Before we really find ourselves in trouble. I actually kind of want that lecture, you know? I can't wait to see the looks on their faces when we come back with 2 duffel bags full of medical supplies," Izuku snickered as they snuck back through the window. They had to be very careful now. With the pills rattling around in both their packs, there was no way to ensure complete stealth, and many Nomu were starting to develop territorial instincts. Honestly, if the creatures weren't so horrifying and deadly, Izuku might actually take to studying them with the same gusto he used to study heroes with. As quietly as they could, they made their way towards the giant hole in the wall. Izuku was concentrating so much on staying quiet that he neglected to watch his footing. He slipped on something slimy and sludgy, likely something decomposing, and tumbled right into a rubbish bin. He froze in absolute horror as the can spilled its age-old contents onto the street, creating a very loud sound as it did so. Tamaki was rooted to the spot as well, sharing a horrified look with Izuku. A high-pitched chattering sound came from above them, and Izuku's eyes widened as he saw an old water town that had a giant hole punched into its side. Something flew out from it, and Izuku's stomach dropped. A distinctly reptilian screech alerted him to his mistake. Almost instantly, a Doberman-sized Nomu stood atop the streetlight. Its body was curved in fine yellow hairs that looked like fur, and it had a long spaded tail that swung below it. Its feet were viciously clawed talons, and instead of arms, it had thick, short wings that allowed it to maneuver easily in tight environments like a city. They were so fast, but they had crappy stamina. The yellow Nomu also nested in flocks. Dozens of pairs of beady eyes shone out from the shadows of the alleyway, and the watchtower in Izuku swallowed thickly. The sharp beak of the yellow Nomu, or Zoomers as they were often nicknamed, was made for tearing into human flesh, and those claws could easily latch onto someone. Despite their smaller size, one could easily lift up a small child alone. Most of them usually work together to lift people up and drop them to their deaths if they didn't just rip into the person midair. Tamaki slowly placed a hand on Izuku's trembling shoulder. Or was that Tamaki's hand that was trembling? And backed them up. Any sudden movement could set them off. For a breathless moment, nothing happened, and Izuku dared to hope. Then, Tamaki's foot hit an old soda can from the rubbish bin Izuku had knocked over, and all hell broke loose. Dozens of Zoomers swarmed the skies above them, nearly blocking out the sun as they cried out in agitation and territorial fury. Their calls and circling would undoubtedly attract the attention of other Nomu like buzzards did with their predators. Izuku's mind filed away the piece of information that a few of the younger Nomu seemed to have longer wingspans, more suited for longer travel and airtime. Were they evolving? Then they attacked. Izuku slashed out with his sword even as he felt talons and beaks starting to tear into his flesh. If he hadn't been wearing his vigilante outfit made with specially spun fibers made to protect him, then he was fairly sure he'd be dead. He bit back a cry when one with particularly good aim bit into his bicep, tearing a part of it away. He cursed himself for procrastinating on patching up the tear in the outfit that allowed the Nomu to get at him. His struggles increased when he felt talons latching onto him and his feet left the pavement. Izuku! Tamaki cried out, fighting off his own swarm. Izuku caught the brief image of his own face, horror-stricken and full of grief. It was an expression he had become increasingly familiar with over the last few years. He'd seen it on many faces, his own included, but he'd never seen someone make that face towards him. It was a strange thing to have someone care about his death. Then he was falling. The ground was coming up too fast, and he knew he was about to meet his end. But instead of cold, hard concrete, a warm pair of arms caught him, cradling him against their chest, and he found himself looking up into Tashiro's concerned amber-yellow eyes. "You good, Izuku?" He gave him a small smile. "Good thing I found your note." He let out a breathless little laugh as reality started to catch up to him. "Yeah, thank you." Tashiro had really come all this way just to save them because he was worried. He'd come on a suicide mission to rescue the original Suicide Squad. The idea was laughable, but he found himself running off adrenaline at this point, unable to fully process anything. He carefully set Izuku down on his feet, but once Vigilante stumbled into the survivor that had once been known as Fat Gum. He was hardly recognizable these days. Tashiro struggled to keep any weight on him, making his quirk damn near useless. But he was a good fighter even without his quirk. He'd been part of the survivor group from the beginning, bringing Tamaki along with him just as Sho and Sashi had brought Izuku and Nemuri along with them. Fat Gum! Tamaki grinned in relief. "What have I told you about using this name?" Tashiro shook his head with a fond smile. "Heroes are a thing of the past. I'm just Tashiro now." "Whatever, lecture me on it later." Tamaki grinned. "Let's just get out of here. Izuku, you still got your bag?" "Of course." His hand migrated to his bag just to be sure it was still laden with all his priceless supplies they'd lifted from the hospital. "Bag?" Tashiro questioned as he grabbed one yellow Nomu and chucked it at the others, who were keeping a wary distance. Izuku's got clenched. This wasn't right. They didn't keep distance like this. They only did so when... "Yeah, we raided a hospital. It was practically untouchable," Tamaki explained. "Guys," Izuku spoke softly as his eyes darted around them. He didn't see it, but he knew something was there. "Help me." It was soft, quiet, a menacing whisper from the shadows behind him that made his every survival instinct go haywire. "Hero, help me." Slowly, Slowly, Izuku turned away from the yellow Nomu, gaze locking onto the soulless black orbs. It looked like a crouched child with hair so long that it brushed the ground. It looked like a corpse, long, gangly arms, dark ashen skin. He could count the vertebrae on the spine, but its tilted head with the same fluidity of a wooden puppet. Slow, choppy, like it wasn't sure how to properly move. It made an odd humming sound, tuneless and terrifying, and it kept its inky black gaze locked onto them. A cursed one. Tamaki swore under his breath. They were once children who had fallen under the disease that created the Nomu. They couldn't breathe, but they were no less terrifying. If any of the Nomu haunted his nightmares as much as the white Nomu, it would be the cursed Nomu. No quirks, no special abilities. They had active human-like vocal cords and mimicked words, pretending to be children and trapping the helpless people who came to help. They may not have been the most outright physically dangerous of the bunch, but they were certainly the creepiest. It stood almost mechanically jerking at odd intervals as it rose to its feet. Perhaps the scariest thing about these cursed Nomu was that they were primes transmitters of the virus, no longer transferable via air or surface contamination, thank goodness. But just like old tales of zombies, it could be transferred by scratches and bites, thankfully only from the cursed Nomu. To run into one of those was practically a death sentence. It was how Izuku had lost. The three backed away slowly. The Zoomers were far less dangerous than a cursed one. At least an injury caused by them wasn't the literal end of his life. A warning growl from his left had Izuku cursing in a way he'd learned from Bakugo. A royal Nomu stood, tail twitching. Oh, cool. A royal Nomu, a cursed one, and little Zoomers, Tamaki muttered. Let's just make the invite to the white Nomu and make it a party. Izuku muttered back, earning a quick glare from his brother. Don't even joke, he admonished. I don't even know if we can make it out of this one. You will, Tashiro promised. Before anything more could be done, the Nomu attacked. It was a confusing cacophony of screeching and claws, and Izuku couldn't fully comprehend what was going on. He was running entirely off instinct, blocking hits as quickly as they came. Honestly, he was beyond grateful that his vigilante outfit had saved his hide more times than he could count. He stumbled to the side as the cursed Nomu came out of nowhere, moving uncharacteristically quickly as it snarled at him with the voice of a young child. Izuku blocked its claws and hastily leapt back to avoid another swipe from the not child. This threw him almost directly into the path of the royal Nomu's tail, which tore through his vigilante outfit like it was a costume. A few nearby roars told him that other royal Nomu were nearly there, and he bit his lip hard enough to bleed in an attempt to keep himself calm. He saw it a moment before it happened. The cursed one, with its terrifying jerky gait, ran at him, long claws outstretched and jaw opened wide, and then suddenly someone was in front of him. You okay? Tashiro grinned as he shoved a knife into the cursed one's skull, but Izuku wasn't watching that. He was staring at the place where the cursed one's teeth had penetrated Toshiro's arm. Tai, maybe if they hurried, an amputation could save him. It's okay, he uttered softly, pulling down a sleeve of his jacket to hide it before Tamaki saw. There was a look in his eyes that told Izuku all he needed to know. I knew I probably wouldn't last long. I've always known it was a matter of time. But suddenly, a smoke bomb obscured everything, and Izuku nearly panicked. This way. Tamaki suddenly grabbed both their wrists and pulled them away from the fight. On foot, Izuku knew they had a little chance to outrun the Nomu, but Tamaki already knew that. So where were they going? He led them into an old bar with busted out windows. Hurry! The Nomu were already on their trail, and it wouldn't be long before they caught up to them. Izuku couldn't hear their claws scraping the pavement around the corner. Tamaki pulled up a hidden trapdoor behind the bar and ushered them inside. After shutting the lid and hearing the telltale lock of a click, He flickered the lights on. It was a small bunker with a door at the far end, an escape tunnel. Hubby told me that some places in town had bars with hidden escape routes. They were frequented by villains back in the day. With the right prices or connections, the bartenders could let someone make a getaway when the heroes and cops came sniffing. He showed me the symbol that was etched into the signs. I didn't expect to see it here. He laughed a bit. We'll be safe here. The tunnel should lead to the outskirts of town, maybe even past the walls. Izuku shared a small, heartbroken look with Tashiro. Tamaki, about that. Good job finding this. Tashiro cut him off. Izuku shot him a look. Surely he didn't intend to keep this from Tamaki. Go on and scout the tunnel ahead. Izuku and I will rest here a bit. And Tamaki, I'm so proud of you. Tamaki frowned, but nodded when he took a good look back at how bloodied and injured Izuku was. I'll be back then. There was a period of silence until Izuku spoke. You really aren't going to tell him? Izuku shot him a look. You know we can't bring you back like this. It only takes 3 days. I know, Tashiro sighed. It's selfish, but I don't want his last memory of me to be tainted by this knowledge. Besides, what could he do about it? This kid always bears the problems of depression and anxiety. I can't bear to see it fester from the consequences of my own actions. So what now? Izuku took a seat beside him. Tashiro was already starting to look a little flushed as a small cough found its way up his throat. He must have had a weaker immune system than they thought, what with the lack of food they'd had. There's nothing to be done, Tashiro sighed. And for the first time, Izuku saw how scared the hero was. I'll turn within 3 days no matter what we do. He smiled a little bitterly. I don't regret it. Don't you dare blame yourself for this. Izuku swallowed thickly. I have a selfish favor to ask of you. Tashiro's hand shook. You picked up a gun a little while back. May I have it? Izuku jolted, hand going towards his flinched pistol. There were only 4 bullets left, but it was still 4 chances to get away, though the sound would inevitably attract nearby Nomu. Guns were nearly as bad as howlers. You can't mean... I don't want to become one of them. Tashiro turned his gaze at Izuku, and his eyes held so many emotions. Fear, apology, regret, sorrow, disappointment. But beneath it all, relief. I'm so tired. We all are. I've tried to hold on, I have, but I can't live in this world anymore. Please, at least let me die saving someone. Tears brimmed over Izuku's eyes as he slowly handed the pistol over. What about Tamaki? He would never let me do this. Tashiro shook his head with a low laugh. Go, catch up to him. Watch over him for me, okay? And whatever you do, don't come back. Izuku hugged him. You've been an amazing friend, Tai. Tell the others we said hello. You're the strongest person I know, Izuku. Don't you ever stop smiling. Izuku sent him one more smile before running off down the corridor, tears falling down his cheeks. He nearly bawled over Tamaki, and he was no longer able to hold back his sobs. Izuku, what's going on? Where's Fat Gum? Tamaki didn't understand until he heard the gunshot. Izuku would never forget the scream. Izuku's eyes snapped open with a strangled sob. It took him a moment to realize he was in his apartment in the teacher's dorms. The clock read 3:30 in the morning, and he knew he had little chance of going back to sleep. As he was now, he rubbed the ache in his bicep, tracing the crater in his skin where the zoomer had gotten him. With deep, shuddering breaths, he pulled himself out from bed and went to go wake himself up. He splashed cold water on his face, blinking as it helped connect him a little more to his body. The cold water dripped from his chin, and rain fell from the skies in sheets as showed his agonized screams. Stop it, he whispered harshly to himself as he scrubbed his face dry, a little more furiously than necessary. He left the bathroom and headed out to his living room, refusing to look at his own reflection. He knew what he'd see. Eyes that were jaded and hard, and that had seen all kinds of horrors. A face that was too young and too old all at once. It was quiet, too quiet. The silence rang out in his ears like a physical force weighing down upon him. He swore he could hear Nomu's cry in the distance. He couldn't stand it, so he turned on the television, which was showing him mindless commercials. Gandharva's Bar, the best place to sit and watch your favorite sports. The screen panned to show a rather nice bar. The bar was dusty and old, and Izuku didn't get much time to really look at everything, as Tamaki practically shoved him and Tashiro down the trapped door. The room below was, "That's enough." He shut off the TV. Obviously, he wasn't going to find something distracting there. He needed to go somewhere or do something. He wandered out of his little apartment down into the common area. He wasn't expecting anyone to be awake since Shota, the only fellow insomniac he knew of, had his own house with Hisashi, so he was rather surprised to see 13 and Ectoplasm talking in hushed voices. They looked up when he entered, and he could sense their frowns. "Midoriya?" 13 questioned softly. "What's wrong? Why would they assume?" He reached a hand to find tears running down his face. "Oh." He hastily wiped them away. "Sorry, old memory visited me in the night, that's all." He poured himself a cup of coffee. "Care to talk about it?" Ectoplasm offered. "Yeah, it's nothing important." He shook his head. "Just loss of a good friend." "Sounds like something important to me," 13 spoke up. "I mean," Izuku downed half the cup of scorching hot coffee, relishing in the burn that grounded him to reality. "It's never easy to lose someone. I've gotten a little too used to it, I suppose." "Need a distraction?" 13 offered, and Izuku sent the rescue hero a smile. "Please." "How good are you at chess?" they questioned, and Izuku could feel them smirking at him. "I don't know, never really played. Teach me the rules and let's find out." "Well, considering 13 always gets their butt kicked by midnight," Ectoplasm snickered, earning a well-cushioned elbow from their fellow hero. Izuku snickered a bit as well, wondering if it felt like being elbowed by a marshmallow. An hour later showed that Izuku was terrifying at chess, easily sweeping both 13 and Ectoplasm off the board. "I thought I had you that time," 13 despaired as Ectoplasm patted them on the back. "I thought you said you never played." "I haven't," Izuku scratched the back of his head, "but as it does say that I excel in strategy and analysis." "I suppose that does make sense," Ectoplasm hummed. "You said that you had a PhD in computer science, yes?" "Yeah," she nodded. "Off-topic question, but why are you guys up this early?" "I had a late patrol," Ectoplasm explained, "and there was a bad accident on the road that required my quirk, so I was called out to help," 13 tacked on. "We just got to talking since we came back at around the same time." Izuku went to say something when his stomach rumbled. His face reddened a bit. "Sounds like we should go for a snack run," Ectoplasm chuckled. "Fatcom came for a visit yesterday and cleared out our fridge." Izuku flinched a bit at the mention of Tashiro. It was just jarring to hear his name in present tense when he just relived the final moments of that man's life. "Oh, you've never seen us in our civvies before!" 13 bounced excitedly, and Izuku blinked. He'd never seen either hero in anything but their hero uniforms in either timeline. Actually, he'd never seen any of the masked heroes in casual clothing. "No, I haven't, actually, even in the first run." "Well, I guess we should slip into something more comfortable," Ectoplasm chuckled. "Give us a bit and we'll meet you back down here. Perhaps you should slip on to something other than your pajamas as well." Izuku felt his cheeks reddened when he realized he was still in soft pants and shirt that depicted various mathematical equations. Right. He went back upstairs and slipped on a t-shirt that read, "My brain has too many tabs open," and a pair of well-worn jeans. He threw a jacket over the top, concealing his sigh. He almost forgot to grab his bag, a simple messenger's bag that held his money and vigilant hero outfit. He headed downstairs and stopped to stare at the two strangers that sat there. Ectoplasm was recognizable by his iconic smile that stretched unnaturally across a moderately pale face. His hair was a soft dark brown, and his eyes were a shimmering greenish gold color framed by a pair of glasses. He gave Izuku a smirk, and it looked odd with his quirk. Good to meet you face to face. You can call me Sugaku. He nodded as he turned his attention towards the person who could only be 13. Izuku had never seen such an androgynistic person before. They had short black hair that fell into the light waves just past their shoulders, and kind of round eyes that looked like they contained an entire galaxy. Purples and blues and reds swirled together in speckles of white pinpricks that reminded him of stars. A pair of glasses sat on their nose, and they gave Izuku a smile. If 13 was comfortable in their suit, they came across so much more in their civilian dress. You can call me Yuka, they introduced. Feel free to call me Izuku then, he smiled. So, we headed out? Yep, there's a convenience store just a block away or so, Yuka explained as they tied back their hair. We can restock the fridge for the week. I don't think we'll get a chance to do so once word of your teaching gets out. Huh? What does my teaching have to do with anything? You really are clueless about that, aren't you? Sugaku chuckled as he locked the door behind them. Once the word gets out that Viridian is teaching at UA, we'll have an all-night crowd all over again. He shook his head. Especially since this will be the press's best chance at getting at you. You are notorious for sleeping away and staying hidden. Yuka nodded, laughed. Izuku went to protest before remembering the hordes of reporters and civilians that had accosted him right outside the police department before the sports festival. Right. Oh no, they're closed. Sugaku groaned as Izuku read the sign out the door. Looks like a staffing issue. They must have not had enough people to cover the overnight shift. Izuku sighed. Happened a lot during the pandemic. Pandemic? Sugaku blinked. I think there's another store just a block or so away. Yuka tilted their head and thought. I've passed it once or twice on patrol. Well, we've already come this far, Izuku shrugged as they continued walking. Yeah, so in the future, there's a pretty nasty global pandemic that'll hit. Took them only a year to get the vaccine out, and the heroes were prioritized on that. Still killed a good chunk of people. Well, I'll make sure to stock up on masks then, Sugaku grimaced. And toilet paper, Izuku chuckled. That was the first thing to sell out. Toilet paper? Yuka stared at him incredulously. Seriously? Yep. Sanitizer and paper products were nowhere to be found. On the other hand, traffic was amazing. He grinned as he remembered how clear roads were. Jeez, I don't even remember it being this far, Yuka huffed, locking a tuck of hair behind their ear. Getting our steps in at least. Sugaku laughed. Well, you two are at least. He knocked his knuckles against one of his prosthetic legs. Izuku couldn't help but think it'd make it nearly impossible to recognize him if he wore a mask over his mouth and nose. So how do you like teaching so far? Yuka grinned as they hooked their hands behind their back in a childish gesture. It suited them oddly well. It's alright, just a little strange. These kids need to learn more than just hit it till it dies, though. I think I'll concentrate on evasion and stealth. Specialties of yours, Sugaku agreed. If 1A ever has another villain encounter, learning how to avoid conflict and get safely away would be the best thing. Izuku shot him an odd look. If? In my original timeline, 1A was continuously attacked by the League of Villains. I think less than 10 members of the original class survived long enough to graduate. The two heroes shot him horrified looks. You're serious? So they're going to keep being attacked? Yuka paled a bit. Yeah, if I hadn't changed things too much. I tried to get Shigaraki to set his gaze on me during the USJ, so hopefully he'll concentrate his fire on Midoriya Izuku rather than the actual children. Technically, you are an actual child. Yuka gave him an unimpressed look. I mean, I've got the experience of a 40-something-year-old, so I've been wondering, did you just toss your memories back, or is there another Izuku wandering around for us to worry about? Sugaku asked. According to all the calculations, it should have punted the entirety of me back in time and merged me with my younger self. Essentially, I've taken over the Izuku of this time. Should have? Yuka raised an eyebrow. Izuku winced as he recalled the train wreck incident. His eyes drifted towards a limicet on his wrist. Really, it was all guesswork. No way for us to run any real tests, you know? We spent years gathering enough power to support the portal for a jump. Everything was wind and solar, you know? They had a couple generators, but finding fuel was nearly hopeless. Far too dangerous to go to the city. That's how we lost Tashiro, after all. Tashiro? You mean Fat Gum? Sugaku startled. Yeah. Izuku rubbed the missing chunk on his bicep. He saved me and died because of it. He shook his memories from his mind. Oh, there's the store! Yuka smiled as they pointed. Izuku felt his stomach sink a bit when he saw it. Maybe I should wait out here, he suggested, earning a frown from his companions. Don't tell me this place has a thing against quirkless people. Sugaku sighed when Izuku nodded. Oh, then by all means. Yuka gave a feral grin, hair rising for a moment as the light of a galaxy flashed within the inky dark locks. Come on in with us. Neither of us are easily recognizable in our civilian dress. Should they choose to discriminate, they will certainly pay the price. Sugaku chuckled as he pulled out a face mask and put it on. I keep it for situations where I don't wish to be recognized, he explained. Honestly, after the pandemic, it's stranger not to see masks, Izuku chuckled. He felt oddly touched to see these two were willing to step up and defend him if it need be. Dare he say it, he was starting to get used to people caring about him. Kaigo, Shota, Yamada, Nezu, and all of the UA staff as a whole. They were reliable. He was starting to feel comfortable in the realization that they weren't about to abandon or turn on him. He liked that. He had friends. The store attendant did a double take when he saw Izuku. He recognized him as the assistant store manager and someone who'd practically attacked him once before. He ducked his head, hiding a smirk. If this guy dared to try anything now, not only did he have two well-known licensed pros with him, but since Namasa had linked his civilian persona with his hero one, he could press serious charges for attacking a pro. If it got to that point, of course. For now, the guy was doing nothing more than shooting Izuku some nasty looks. Sagaku's eyes flickered to the attendant for a moment before the three of them went out shopping. Izuku was looking for some cans of coffee when another attendant started sanitizing things. Everything he touched, the attendant sanitized. To Izuku, it was normal, even preferred during the pandemic, but he also realized it was an incredibly rude gesture. Yuka shot the attendant a glare as they grabbed Izuku's wrist and started looking at coffee with him, despite the fact that they didn't drink it. He nearly laughed at the look the attendant shot them as she left, a mixture of frustration and disgust which made her look hilariously constipated. Thanks, he muttered to the rescue hero. You deal with that every time you go shopping? They frowned. Why do you think I've taken to shopping in my vigilante uniform? People don't dare to do more than glare or mutter to, because they know I've got a license now. He chuckled. Unfortunately, that's not quite illegal, Sugaku scowled. Oh, just wait, Izuku grinned. The cashier is the assistant store manager. He has a serious problem with me. He's actually why I stopped shopping here. Well then, let's finish this trip up, Yaku decided. They stuck close to Izuku as they shopped. Sugaku didn't stray far either, though he did grab anything from the higher shelves that they couldn't reach. Izuku very much appreciated someone with height on their side. For once, he didn't have to jump to reach the canister of oatmeal he liked from the top shelf. He dared not climb the shelves after his last attempt nearly knocked down the aisle. He knew even a quirked individual couldn't get away with that, let alone a quirkless person like him. Izuku set the stuff down on the counter at the checkout, and the manager gave him a flat look. Wasn't I clear last time, he scowled. I refuse to serve something like you. You've contaminated this entire establishment. I have just as much of a right to shop as anyone else, Izuku stated, firmly looking the man in the eye. Right, he scoffed. Quirkless things have no rights. He scowled, anger evident in his voice. Leave. I windled once you left me buy my things. The man was a little faster than Izuku gave him credit for, but with his experience he appeared to move in slow motion. He aimed a punch for Izuku, who dodged it, allowing the fist to sail into the display behind him, denting the iron structure and sending snacks flying. Sagaku's hand wrapped around the manager's wrist with an iron vice, stopping all movements. Izuku clearly saw the 2-inch-long spikes that had produced from the man's knuckles. If that had hit Izuku, it likely would have killed him. Well now, I'd say that's a villainous act. Attacking someone with your quirk is very illegal, especially with the intent to kill. Yuka had a gentle smile on their innocent face, but their voice was dripping with honeyed venom. I'd say, Sakaku agreed with a scowl. Hey, hands off! That thing is quirkless. It's not illegal. It's only illegal if I attack another person. The manager defending, digging his grave deeper. You'd think he'd at least be smarter about it, Yuka scoffed. Don't worry, the cops are on their way. You have no right. The manager's words were cut off by Sagaku removing his mask, revealing his iconic grin. Ectoplasm? The man's eyes grew wide. Yup. Yuka was bouncing on their feet like an excited child. Why am I not surprised? The familiar, exhausted voice had Izuku beaming at his favorite detective. Masa! He grinned. Quirk discrimination? Namsa rubbed his eyes as Tigron and Akira secured the manager. Hey, Tero! Aku! Long time no see! The two shared confused looks as Namsa whispered something into their ears. Tarugani choked as Akuruni's eyes widened. Seriously? The fur on Tyronaki's tail was standing on end. But you're so young? Short? Izuku sent him a smirk. Nope, that's him. Akuri shook her head with a sigh. Nobody can give a smirk like that but him. Come on, Tagurani urged the manager towards the car, leaving Namasa with the three heroes. Okay, you know the drill. What happened? Grocery run? Izuku shrugged. Guy didn't want to sell anything to me and then attacked me with his quirk. Seemed to be able to extend his bones in his knuckles by about 2 inches. Spiked, so he may have the ability to control the shape. I'd watch out for lock-picking skills. Namasa nodded before turning to the two heroes in confusion. I know ectoplasm, but I'm afraid I need a name for a statement. They looked towards Yuka. Oh, it's me, 13. They cackled a bit at Namasa's shock. Right, my apologies. So, statements? I know Midoriya will just email me his later. Izuku snickered. You know you love the nights I take off. Yes, because they're usually quiet, he stressed. Unless you go out into civilian stress and cause trouble. What can I say? Trouble loves me. Izuku chatted with a few of the cops, much to their confusion, while he waited for his co-workers to finish giving their statements. Alright, we're good to go. Yuka stretched their arms above their head. Jeez, you need to tell us next time when someone's going to attack you. There shouldn't be a next time, Sagaku groaned as they walked back towards the dorm. With Izuku's luck? Yuka shot him a look. Fair point, the cloning hero sighed. Honestly, I didn't expect him to use his quirk, Izuku shrugged. Last time he just chased me out with a broom. So, was that little walk distracting enough for you? Yuka grinned, tilting their head at Izuku. From your nightmare, I mean? Yeah, Izuku grinned back. Thank you. Normally I'd go out on patrol to get my mind off things, but then I'd be out all night. Plus, Shota would kill me for going out on patrol all alone. Why? I mean, I know you got in trouble a lot, but surely once in a while is okay. Sagaku raised an eyebrow. Because the last time I went out on patrol alone, that he knows of, I nearly got killed by Stain. He laughed, missing the horrified looks traded behind his back. That's actually how I met Kaigo, or Hawks. Yeah, maybe we should come with you on any late night escapades moving forward. Yuka laughed, scratching their scalp. They each scanned their staff presses as they passed through the gates and headed back to the staff dorms. Tomorrow's the deadline for your internships, Sagaku mused. Have you chosen yours? Well, Shota says I can't intern with myself, Izuku huffed. But the whole Stain fiasco happened during the internships, so I'll need to make sure my civilian interns with someone who already knows everything. Right now I'm thinking of going with either Shota or Kaigo. Izuku paused to think. Well, from an outsider's perspective, Shota would make more sense. He fights quirkless after all. Kaigo's like a brother's to me, but an internship wouldn't really make a lot of sense. I mean, you could intern with any staff member since we're all in the know, Yuka offered, a smirk playing on their lips. I'd happily take you on if you were interested. As much as I appreciate the offer, the internship is more for show. Izuku shook his head as they entered the building, locking the door behind them. I'll be going after Stain as Viridian. Wait a minute. Sugaku adjusted his glasses as he spoke. You mean to say you're going to go after the hero killer? Alone? The same guy that you just said almost killed you? In my original timeline, Ida Tenya was killed in Hosu during his internship. He was looking for Stain, likely seeking retribution for his brother's paralysis. I initially intended for Kaigo to go and apprehend Stain while protecting Ida Tensei, but the guy managed to slip away. I think I understand why I was always complaining about your reckless streak, Yuka sighed, running a hand through their hair, creating an odd shimmering effect like shooting stars. Also, I never said I would go alone. Shota would never let me, and Kaigo would lay eggs, Izuku corrected, earning a snort of amusement from the other two. You've got that right. Sugaku's grin widened a bit. I think I heard Aizawa debating on taking on Shinso Hitoshi as an intern, though. Hitoshi, huh? Izuku felt a small smile grace his lips. Yeah, Sho's fighting style really would fit Quip well. Quip? Yuka tilted their head. Ah, Hitoshi became a vigilante in my time. I gave him his vigilante name, Quip. He always seemed to have a comeback for everything, and the nickname just kinda stuck, Izuku mused. Maybe I can stick it on him again in this timeline. Your initial problem still stands. Since Aizawa is now unavailable, who will you intern with? Sugaku gave him a raised eyebrow as they started to put away the groceries. Izuku rubbed his chin, idly misting his stubble. I could default to Nezu since I'm already his personal student, but that does defeat the purpose of an internship. Maybe the question isn't what would make the most sense as Izuku, but what kind of backup you'll need as Viridian, Yuka spoke up. In the wake of what's about to happen, will anyone even question your decision? You have a point, Izuku nodded, but who would be the best matchup against Stain? How does he fight? Sugaku asked, as he closed the fridge and stowed the bags for later use. The three settled around the table with coffee, or tea in Yuka's case. I'd be willing to help. I'm not sure how your quirk would match up to Stain's. Do your clones bleed? No, they're just made of ectoplasm. Only the real me would bleed. Then maybe. Stain is fast, scarily so. I'm not so sure if he'd let you have the chance to make clones, honestly. And his quirk allows him to paralyze anyone that he ingests the blood of. Even a single drop can be deadly. Is that how he's killed so many? Yuka sighed as they took a sip. Yeah, I experienced it firsthand. What about a long-range fighter, like Snipe? Sugaku suggested. Not only would he make sense for your student persona, but he has the element of surprise. He could take out Stain very quickly. Izuku's eyes brightened. And if he sticks to the rooftops, then with me distracting Stain, he should stay safe. Sugaku, that's brilliant. Someone talking about me? Izuku startled when he saw him. His dark blue dreadlocks were tied back and out of the way, allowing Izuku to see his face for the first time. He definitely had some European in him, that much was clear. His eyes were a stunning blue, framed by a scar near his left eye. The left half of his face looked terribly burned, and Izuku idly wondered if that was why he always wore his mask. He gave Izuku an easy smile. Mornin'. Snipe? He blinked, causing Yuka to chuckle. Looks like Izuku's getting all the face reveals today. Yep, it's me. Snipe laughed. Hero name's fine. I don't usually go out in civilian clothes. Too many stairs. Never pegged you as the self-conscious type, Izuku mused as he passed the hero a mug of coffee. So, you're talking about internships? Sorry, I couldn't help but overhear a bit. How much? Yuka shot him a look. Enough. Snipe grinned before turning his attention back to Izuku. So, hero killer, huh? Sounds like a good time. Izuku snorted. So that's a yes, I take it? Sure, I'll go ahead and file the paperwork. It'll be interesting to have an intern for a change. Ever fired a gun? Izuku grimaced for a moment, mind going back to his nightmares. Yeah, only a handful of times though. Nomu typically are attracted to loud noise, so gunshots were a giveaway. Never had the chance to practice aim. Understandable. We can do a few long-range weapons. Doesn't have to be a gun. You can try archery too. His grin widened. You realize you may not have the time to actually do interning. Sukaku leaned against his fist, amused. Oh, let him have his fun, Yuka scolded lightly. Speaking of, isn't Hisakuwa up yet? Hisakuwa? Izuku questioned as Lunch Rush, recognizable by his mask, came down the stairs. They mean me, Hisakuwa Tamakaru. Pleasure to meet you formally. He seemed to be grinning beneath his mask. Izuku realized abruptly that it was an oxygen supply, and thus not strictly part of his hero uniform. Of course, if it was actual medical equipment, as Izuku suspected, then it'd be incredibly rude to comment on it. Need a hand? Izuku offered as Hisagawa went around the kitchen. No thanks, I've got it though. Thanks though. He used his quirk, a form of telekinesis, to start preparing the ingredients and get things cooking. Hisagawa frowned lightly as he gave Izuku another glance. How many meals do you eat? You're too thin. Kaigo would bring me food whenever he could. Usually I get in 1 or 2 meals. I'm still probably recovering from malnutrition, I jumped back with. You should talk to Chuya, recovery girl, about that, the cooking hero advised. She can give me a dietary plan to help you get all the nutrients you're missing. Izuku's cheeks reddened. You don't have to go to all that trouble. Izuku, Yuka cut him off with a fond smile. You forget, we're heroes. We like helping people. And you're our coworker and friend. Let us help you, okay? He ducked his head to hide the blush that was quickly making him look like a walking Christmas ad. Thanks. Laughter flooded the room, and he couldn't help but smile. This felt nice.
Noise is scared away. I'm afraid. Barbie is a whore. You? Uh-oh. Should we all run? Dragana in a dress. If you're afraid, we should all be scared. Dragana in a dress. What's up? Noise scared away. You'll see as soon as they come on. Barbie is a whore. Who? Moldy Broccoli is online. Barbie is a whore. Oh. Moldy Broccoli. Guys, did you hear? Moldy Broccoli. Gay anime boy. The cake is alive. What? What's going on? I'm in class right now. Moldy Broccoli. A new teacher at UA. It's Viridian. Noisy scaredly. That's what the rumors say, at least. Gay anime boy is online. Gay anime boy. No, it's legit. He taught my bros class and everything. Smiley face. I'm stoked. Maybe I can actually meet him. Demonic gay microwave. Oda O? Really? He's a real bitch out now. Demonic gay microwave. Correction. Now. Moldy Broccoli. Take me with you! Noisy scaredly. It does sound pretty cool. Just don't storm UA. Moldy Broccoli. Aw, but Mom! Noisy scaredly. Since when am I your mom? Demonic gay microwave. You are the adamant of this chat. You are Mom. Gay anime boy. Mom, can I go see Viridian? Moldy Broccoli. Mom, can I go see God? Noisy scaredly. I am so done with you people. Sigh. Noisy scaredly is offline.
Izuku hummed lightly as he and May finished up the shop. Oh no, how's it gotten so late? May rushed to gather her things. I'm gonna miss my train if I stay any later. Sorry, Izu, we'll have to pick this up again tomorrow. Tomorrow's the start of the internships. He shook his head. We'll just work on it when I come back. And compare notes on what we've done independently, of course. Right, she beamed. And don't worry about Toshi. I'll probably invite him over during the break. Go on or you'll miss your train, May. He chuckled as she bolted from the room. I do understand that integrity requires a lot of trial and error. Powerloader spoke up as he cautiously poked his head up from where he'd been hiding behind his reinforced desk. But can you please try to blow yourselves up less I'm going through all my alcohol. Izuku snickered. Aw, but you were the one who taught me how to blow stuff up. And I have never wanted to kick myself so hard before. Don't be that way, Izuku grinned. At any rate, you wanted to talk to me? Yes, about your hero gear. I understand that you've got a fight coming up. Sane, wasn't it? He grimaced as he grabbed a few things from under his desk. That's right, Izuku nodded as he pulled out his Viridian outfit. Is this really what you've been working with so far? Power Loader frowned. It's so? Where did you say this? You got this again? Discount Halloween, Izuku shrugged. I made the utility belt myself, and that's about the only thing from my first run outfit that fit. He then pulled out his old Viridian costume. Yes, I can see how this wouldn't fit, Power Loader hummed as he ran his hands over the material. Kevlar? Part of it, Izuku laughed. I used some silk from some genetically altered spiders and spun it with some polyvine fluorine, tarfolothene, and then twisted it into yarn before twisting it into coils, and... I think you've just lost me a bit, Power Loader blinked. I can write you some notes I've got on it, if you'd like to prefer. Yes, that may be better, he decided. How strong is it? Well, it can absorb nearly 100 joules of energy, and it can stretch about 7 tones longer than Kevlar. Izuku enjoyed the way Power Loader jolted at that, looking at the original Viridian suit with a much sharper gaze. Beyond that, what types of weapons do you currently have? He set the clothing aside as Izuku pulled out his sword. This is my main weapon. It came back from me from the first run. I've had it for, wow, about 12 years now. He carefully set his trusty blade on the desk. The sheath was so worn that any design on it was long gone, and the grip had grooves in it from his fingers gripping in some spots for over a decade. The guard was broken in several places and was only moderately tarnished. May I? He waited for Izuku to nod before unsheathing the blade. What happened here? He traced the branch designs on the blade itself that shimmered in the lightning. My sword got struck in the skull of a royal Nomu, and it acted as a lightning rod to electrocute it. Saved my life, actually. Izuku ran a hand over the blade for a moment. That was the day Sashi died. I see. Power Loader's voice was soft. From what I can tell, this blade is in fairly good condition, all things considered. I've got some supplies here that you can use to get it back into smoother form. He pulled out a few things that Izuku hadn't seen since before the pandemic. Thank you. He took the microcrystalline wax and real cloth with a grin. I've got some things you can use to sharpen in storage room 8. Here's the key. Don't bother giving it back. The hero chuckled as he handed over the shiny golden key. Feel free to use that room for whatever you'd like. Really? Whatever I'd like? Izuku challenged, earning a glare. Within reason, Power Loader amended. Define reason. Nothing illegal or potentially dangerous to the general student body or staff. Fair enough. He mentally crossed off a few things of his list. So I hear you're interning with Snipe. Power Loader smirked as he leaned back. Yep, Sagaku, Yoka, and I were talking about it last night. Wow, already on first-name basis with those two. Power Loader chuckled. In that case, you can call me Higakure. If that doesn't bother you, of course. No, it works fine. Izuku works for me, too. I should have an outfit ready for you by tomorrow morning, Higakure mused as he looked at the two vigilante costumes. Any last-minute modifications? Nothing I can think of. Actually, if you could add a sound muffler to the voice changer, that'd help a lot when I'm in stealth mode. And some extra padding to the shoes. Extra grips in the fingers would be helpful too, especially when I'm climbing on the edge of a building. A way to secure the belt would be good. It keeps slipping, and the fourth pouch keeps falling open. Alright, I've got it written down. Higakure laughed a bit. I'll make it personally. It'll mostly be Kevlar, though. I don't have access to whatever this is currently. He gestured towards the first run outfit. I figured, Izuku shrugged. Even that's better than... Indeed. Higakure held up his patched costume. I'm honestly shocked it's lasted this long. Well, I may have had to replace it once or thrice. Viridian spun in his chair in the teacher's lounge with a sigh. Shota couldn't help but feel a little sorry for his class. Today's lesson had been a lot of physical conditioning led by the green-clad hero. Shota was tired just watching them. He wasn't sure if he wanted to know that Viridian had planned for the next lesson. The final internship list is in, he announced, drawing in Viridian's attention. And? Shota scrolled through. Uraraka was interning with Gunhead. That was a surprise. And Bakugo was interning with Murkrow. Those two would probably get along swimmingly, especially with Bakugo's newfound drive. His eyes lingered on the name Bnha. Viridian rested his arm on Shota's shoulder as he read over the Manual City, Hosu. Damn it! Viridian's fist hit Shota's desk with surprising strength. Had he cracked it? Idiot, he's going after Stain. How can you be so sure? Midnight asked as she came over. He could just want to intern with his brother. No, trust me. He's furious about Stain attacking his brother like that. He's seeking vengeance. Any idea what day of the internship? Shota asked with a sigh. Why was his class so damn troublesome this year? Radiant scratched his head a bit. About that. You'd think you'd remember something so important. 13 spoke up from the other desk. Wasn't it on the news? It's been like 30 years. Give me a break. There's been a ton of stuff on the news in the last 3 decades. Well, maybe not the last decades, but because communications were down, but still. You can't tell me you remember every major event that occurred 10 years ago, can you? When you put it like that, Midnight sighed. So what, we just stalk Ida until he finds Stain? I remember something major happening in Hosu the night he was attacked. Fire, explosions and stuff. I think Endeavor was part of it too, Viridian hummed. The day Endeavor goes to Hosu will be the day of the attack. It's a lot easier to keep track of one blazing hothead than stalk the city for a week, Midnight agreed. I've got no interns this year, so I can keep an eye on him for you. I don't have any interns either, 13 piped up. Hold on, let me make a new chat. Viridian pulled out his phone and started typing away.
Viridian Chaos has created a new chat room. Viridian Chaos has invited Dadzawa, Furry, Sugagame, Scream, and 11 plus others. Viridian Chaos. Welcome to the Chaos, everyone! This is the chat for everyone in the know, so we can all stay in the loop. Mother Hen. What trouble are you up to? Dadzawa. Hunting down Stain. Scream. Just be careful! Montrose has changed their name to Dinner is Served. Midnight. Really? Dinner is served. Might as well have some fun. I haven't been in a group chat for a long time. Midnight has changed their name to I am here. Nezu. Keep us posted. I'll keep track of those who are embarking on this mission via GPS. Come to me before you leave town for communications. Nezu has changed their name to Evil Genius. Viridian Chaos. Thank Nez.
You can seriously get away with calling him that? Shota stared at him in shock. Yup, Viridian cackled. It was our trade for some information. Wonders never cease, Midnight shook her head. I'll explain the tentative plan to the chat. You two go do whatever, I guess. So, Viridian sent him a smirk. Hitoshi, huh? It's logical. He's going to need to learn a quirkless fighting style. Underground heroics is his most rational choice. Shota crossed his arms. Plus, he's like a mini you, eye bags and all. Viridian snickered. Heaven forbid we ever find a mini you. Shota shot back. I'm already fun-sized. Viridian stuck his tongue out at him before continuing in a much more serious tone. So what are you going to do? You've got an intern this year. You can't just drag him to Hosu, it's too dangerous. I'll just give him a single day off. Shota shrugged. Most of our work will be at night, so I'm sure he'll appreciate some time to himself. Oh, Hagakure said he'll have a new costume ready for me by morning. Viridian grinned. It'll be nice to get something more durable than a discount Halloween stuff. I'm honestly impressed you've lasted so long with your luck. You need those defenses, Shota sighed. My luck isn't that bad, Viridian protested. Let's see. Gunshot wound? Saving your ass? Twice. Masa Skies shot at me. Stab wounds, which is normal in our profession. Your crazy stalker? Not my fault, USJ. Which I totally expected, so it was supposed to happen. Trainwreck? Like I said, how was I supposed to know? Fell off of 6 buildings? 12, actually, but you don't know about those. Stain! Shota's stressed. Fine, I've got a knack for finding trouble. But I have good luck because I survived, Viridian pointed out, causing a few of the staff to chuckle. Sheesh, when he lists them off like that, he really does sound a lot, 13 winced. Maybe we should keep someone with you after all. Yuka! Viridian's pout deepened. Well, we've got a full day before internship starts, Midnight mused. Why not take a staff vacation? Sounds to me like Viridian needs one. And what with so many of us around, what could possibly go wrong? Say those words in memory, and I will personally have Nezu ban you from every club and bar in the district, Shota promised. Viridian's luck was shitty enough without tempting the powers like that. Since when do you believe in jinxes? Midnight raised an eyebrow. Since I met a time-traveling vigilante that has the ability to turn everything I thought was true on its head and drive me mad in the process, Shota sighed. But a vacation does sound like a good idea. Where to? Viridian blinked at them all owlishly. What's with that look? 13 questioned. I've never gone out and done anything with people before, he answered a little distantly. What, you've just never gone out and hung out with friends? Midnight raised an eyebrow. You kind of need friends for that. Viridian's answer was incredibly casual and made Shota wince. Right. Quirkless discrimination. I've booked us all a trip to the hot springs in Tokyo. Nezu's grinned as he appeared out from nowhere. The only person who didn't jump was Viridian. We can all meet up at 8 a.m. tomorrow. Everyone should be relaxed and refreshed for their internships tomorrow. Wonderful, 13 beamed. I can't wait. I haven't been to a hot spring in ages. Shota let himself smile a little. Perhaps this would all be alright after all. A night off would do them all some good, honestly. Izuku gaped when he saw the inside of the hot springs. It was so extravagant. It looked like something for the wealthy. Lavish decorations were tastefully sprinkled throughout the entrance hall, as a stream ran through the room, creating an air of relaxation and zen that was only added to by the incense that they had burning. A bamboo fountain quietly thumped outside, and Izuku felt his shoulders relax a bit. Don't tell me you've never been to the hot springs before either. Yuka gave him a small smirk. Everyone was in their civvies, but the staff of the hot springs had obviously been informed of who was coming, because they didn't glance twice at Cementos or Hound Dog. Nope, first time, he stated as he presented his ID, staff ID, as Nezu had told him to the front desk clerk. She blinked a bit before shrugging and handing him a pass. It was by far the easiest time he'd ever had at a front desk, and he felt an odd giddiness well up in him. Maybe this time things would be okay. Midnight threw an arm around Hizashi and Shota's shoulder as she tossed Izuku an easy grin. Come on, let's check out this bar. All right, Izuku grinned, before Yuka and Sagaku grabbed either shoulder and stopped him. No. Sagaku sent him a glare, as Yoku sent Namuri one. Problem child isn't old enough. Shota gave the 18-plus hero a glare. Hawk said he has enough trouble keeping the sake from him. I'll have you know that doesn't count and you know it. Shota cut him off, making him pout. Come on, Yoka laughed. They've got some non-alcoholic drinks that are just as good. Most everyone sat around the large table as they ate. Some drinks, other with tea. Zuku settled for a virgin drink that was surprisingly good. He grinned as Namuri and Hizashi teamed up on teasing Shota. There was an easy air of camaraderie and friendship that hung around the group. He realized with a little bit of shock that he trusted them. This odd group of heroes were people he was coming to believe in and trust to watch his back. Izuku took a moment to sit back and absorb everything as he tentatively let some of his guard down, for the first time in over a decade. He allowed himself to relax a bit as he sat back and just enjoyed the moment. Sisu? Tamaki jostled his shoulder a bit with a quiet laugh. Dobby passed out. Told you he couldn't hold his liquor. Maybe we should draw on his face. Mario grinned. I don't know, Mario. He wouldn't be very happy. Izuku swirled his whiskey as he thought. What's the harm? It's just a marker. Tamaki, better known as Mount Lady, threw an arm over Izuku's shoulder. Besides, he could really do with a little makeover, don't you know? It's really his fault for passing out after only a couple of shots. Izuku smirked as he uncapped the pen, noting the way Hisashi and Shota pretended not to watch. The group had only been together for a handful of months, but it was obvious that the world was going to shit. It was one of the few bars left open, since it didn't have a constant swarm of patrons. Since the world was going to hell, they all decided it'd be just fine to have a couple of drinks. The walls people had built around the city to keep the Nomu out were working well enough, but something told Izuku that it wouldn't last long. The faux safety was just an illusion. Something told him to enjoy these moments because they would be gone soon. People started to group up almost as soon as the walls went up 2 years ago. They formed gangs and cliques, and Izuku was more than shocked to have found himself in one. Shota was the one who'd invited him, and he was beyond grateful for that hero had been after his vigilante hide for the last few years had reached out a hand to help him. Because now, at the age of nearly 35, he had people he could call, maybe friends, for the first time since he was 4. He would have invited Quip, one of his own actual friends, but he had already dropped off the map. It was entirely possible that he was already part of a survivor group. Izuku didn't want to think about the alternative. His only other friend, rival, was Hatsumu Mei. She was busy working with what little government powers were left to combat this disease. Could it even be called that anymore when it had created such horrific monsters? Even All Might had been killed. Truly, was there any hope for anyone at this point? He turned to smile at Tamaki, Mirio, Nemuri, as the three gleefully wrote all sorts of things on Dobby's face. Tamaki was grinning as Hagari laughed quietly. If only things could stay this way. If only. Izuku? He startled, shaking himself out of his flashback. His eyes focused on Yuka's concerned expression. You back with us? He scrubbed at his face a bit as he looked around. It seemed the other staff members had enough decency to pretend they weren't paying attention. Shota, Sagaku, and Yuka were the only ones who didn't bother to pretend. Yeah, he let out a bit of a breath. Sorry if I startled you. Don't apologize, you've been through hell. Shota shook his head. I'd be surprised if this didn't happen. It wasn't bad this time, he mused as he took a sip of his drink. There was still ice, so he must have not been out of it for too long. Just remembering the days before the walls went down. Walls? Yuka blinked. You don't have to answer if you don't want to. When the Nomu started showing up, people built walls around the cities to keep them out. It ended up backfiring when people refused to acknowledge they were sick, and outbreaks turned the protective measures into death traps. A pandemic? Chuya frowned. Oh, didn't I tell you? Izuku blanked. There was a massive global pandemic that struck, and Shigaraki used that to his advantage. It's how he spread the Nomu virus, through purposely contaminated batches of the initial virus's vaccine. Since I'm quirkless, I was never able to get a vaccine, so I was never at risk of being exposed to the second strand. For once, I think discrimination was a good thing, Shota sighed. Sho, can you braid my hair tonight? Hisashi draped himself all over his husband, cheeks flushed with the pleasant buzz of alcohol. Shota sighed as he patted his husband's neck. Drink some water and I'll braid your hair, stupid cockatoo. Izuku smiled softly at the scene as Nemuri and Snipe shared a cackle. It's always nice to see people outside of work, Cementos commented to Izuku with a smile. You get to see a side of people that they normally keep hidden. It gives you a better glimpse into who they are really. A great way to foster trust. Sagaku laughed a bit. Careful, Sagaku. If you drink much more, we'll have to carry you to your rooms. Vlad laughed heartily. Hey, Yuka. I've been meaning to ask you, but, can I braid your hair sometimes? He turned a little red as his friends, were they friends? Gave a low chuckle. I mean, I did it for a couple co-workers of mine when I worked at the cafe, and I kind of miss it sometimes, and I think that sounds like a great idea. Yuka grinned. You can braid my hair if I can style yours. Izuku laughed a bit. Deal. Ooh, a hairstyle party! Hizashi threw an arm around Izuku and Yuka with a grin. We should all get together. You wouldn't believe how good Shota is with hair. Hey, it's not information for you to brag about. Shota flushed a bit in mild mortification, making Izuku laugh. Shota startled a bit, and Izuku realized he hadn't laughed so freely or lightly ever since. Wow, he couldn't remember one. It must have been as a child. It felt good. He looked up when a familiar calloused hand ruffled his hair. Keep up that smile, problem child. Izuku relaxed into the touch. I'll do my best. Oh, make! Setting, first run. Tamaki and Izuku trudged towards the hideout. The bags laden with life-saving medical supplies were heavy with the weight of the loss they represented. Why didn't he tell me? Tamaki wiped away another tear as his bottom lip trembled. He said he didn't want to see the pain it'd cause you, Izuku sighed. It'd been nearly impossible to pull his distraught brother away from Tashiro's final tomb. Izuku gently coaxed Tamaki into a hug and tapped a specific pattern on the door, waiting for someone to open it. There you are. Shota glared as he let them inside. You ran off into the night without a damn word, problem child. Dabi, Izuku called out quietly, voice softened by grief. Here, for Zashi. He handed over the bag, and the once villain opened it curiously. Hold on. His eyes went wide as he looked at the supplies. What is this? Medicine, Tamaki spoke up. Everything we could swipe from the hospital. Hospital? Demuri frowned. Don't tell me you two went into the city. Hold on. Hagure held a hand up. Tashiro went after you. Where is he? Izuku clenched his fists as he glared hard at the ground, trying to ignore the stifled sobs from Tamaki. Gone, he whispered. He's gone. Thank you all for listening, and that was Chapter 20, Fostering Trust of Viridian by Silver Mist Anime Lover. I hope you guys all enjoyed, and thank you so much for your patience. Sorry if some of the things sounded a little bit off, but I hope you guys enjoyed. We have 3 more chapters left. See you guys next week. Bye!